Today, we're going to talk about something that goes against pretty much everything we've ever been taught about loyalty and trust. It's this wild idea that the people you're closest to, well, they might just be the most dangerous ones. So let's get into why that might be.
All right, let me ask you a quick question. Put yourself in this situation. It's high stakes, everything's on the line, and you have to trust someone with your life. Who are you picking?
So, you've got two options. Option one, your best friend. You guys go way back, you know him, you trust him. Option two, your sworn enemy. Yeah, the person who's always been against you, but you kind of get what makes them tick. The choice seems like a no-brainer, right? Well, what if I told you that centuries of history suggest that the obvious answer is probably the wrong one? Stick with me, because by the end of this, you might completely rethink who you trust. And that brings us to the heart of it all, this core idea that's been observed for ages. You gotta be careful with your friends. They're actually more likely to betray you because envy can creep in so easily. Honestly, you probably have way more to fear from a friend than you do from an enemy. You know, the philosopher Voltaire nailed this. He basically said, you can handle your enemies. They're out in the open. You see them coming. But a friend, their betrayal comes right from your blind spot. It's the one place you never thought to look. Okay, so to really see how this plays out, we're going to dive into a pretty tragic story. It's a classic cautionary tale from the Byzantine Empire, and it's all about a guy named Emperor Michael III. So Michael's story is just a total textbook tragedy. It all starts when this humble stable hand, a guy named Basilius, saves the emperor's life. Michael is so grateful he just showers his new buddy with gifts, power, and education. He even makes him his chief advisor, passing over people who were way more qualified. But that kindness, it wasn't exactly a two-way street. Basilius gets a taste of power and wants more. He convinces Michael to have his own uncle killed. And then, when Michael hits a rough patch financially and asks his friend to pay back some of the money he'd been given, Basilius just says no, flat out refuses. And it gets worse. Just a few weeks after that, Basilius has his soldiers murder Michael, the very guy who gave him everything, and he takes the throne for himself. Unbelievable.
So, where did it all go so wrong? Well, Michael bet everything on gratitude. He thought all these favors would create loyalty. But they didn't. They created a sense of entitlement. Basilius started to feel like he deserved it all, and that debt he owed his friend, it became this heavy weight, this burden. Michael was so blinded by his friendship that he couldn't see the monster he was building, piece by piece. But here's the thing. Michael's story, it didn't have to end that way. There's another path. Let's contrast his huge mistake with the strategy of a totally different ruler, Emperor Sung of China. He had a similar problem, but his solution, it was worlds apart.
So, Emperor Sung comes to power way back in 959 AD, and he knows the score. He knows he's surrounded by these powerful generals, his so-called friends, who would probably kill him for the throne, just like they'd done to countless emperors before him. He knew deep down he couldn't trust his friends. And what he did next was absolutely brilliant. He throws this big banquet and invites all his top commanders, the friends he's worried about. But instead of a bloody assassination, he makes them an offer they can't refuse. He says, listen, give up your power and I will set you up for life. You'll have huge estates, all the money you could want, and you can just retire peacefully. And you know what? The very next day, every single one of them resigned. In one single move, he turned this pack of dangerous wolves into a bunch of docile lambs, miles away from any real power. But hold on, because this is where it gets even more clever. Sung didn't just get rid of his friends. He went a step further and actively started recruiting his former enemies. I mean, he spares this rebel king, Lu, who's terrified he's about to be poisoned. So Sung drinks from Lu's cup first, just to prove he can be trusted. Then he pardons another king, even though he had cold, hard proof the guy was plotting against him. What was the logic here? It's simple. A former enemy expects death, so when you give them life, they're not just loyal, they're profoundly grateful. They will do anything for you. And the result of this incredible strategy? The Sung dynasty ruled China for more than 300 years. Think about that. It broke this endless cycle of bloody coups that had been going on for centuries. It was a dynasty built not on the shaky ground of friendship, but on the solid foundation of enemies he turned into allies. Okay, so let's get into the psychology of all this. Why on earth does this completely counterintuitive strategy actually work so well? Yeah, the big question is, what's the deal with friendship? What is it about that dynamic that just becomes so explosive when you mix in power?
Well, for starters, we often don't know our friends nearly as well as we think we do, right? We all kind of hide our rough edges to keep things smooth. But then you hire them, and that act of kindness can throw the whole relationship off balance. Suddenly, that favor you did them feels oppressive. It can spark resentment, even envy. They might start to wonder if they were hired because they were good or just out of pity. And at the end of the day, when it comes to getting things done, what really matters is skill and competence, not warm, fuzzy feelings.
The Roman historian Tacitus figured this out literally thousands of years ago. He said that gratitude is a burden, but revenge is a pleasure. It's a pretty dark take on human nature, but man, is it a powerful one. An enemy, though, think of them as an untapped gold mine. Someone you've reconciled with has everything to prove. They're going to work harder, be more loyal, because they are so eager to show you made the right call. And here's the key. Your relationship isn't built on messy, unstable emotions. It's built on a clear, solid foundation of mutual self-interest. So let's just lay it out side by side. The hired friend often feels entitled, is driven by emotion, and that can all curdle into envy and betrayal. But the reconciled enemy, they feel grateful. They're motivated by self-interest and wanting to prove their worth. And the result, surprisingly, is often incredible loyalty and competence. And there's actually another hidden benefit here. Having a clear enemy keeps you on your toes. It keeps you sharp. It's like what Tse-tung believed. A good opponent forces you to get better, to focus your goals. Without that opposition, we can get lazy and lose our edge. But look, this whole thing isn't just about being a cynical manipulator. There's one last twist, a deeper layer to this idea that kind of flips the whole thing on its head. You've probably heard this story about Abraham Lincoln. During the Civil War, someone criticized him for being too kind to his enemies. And his reply was just legendary. And this, right here, shows the ultimate power move. It's not just about using your enemies, it's about transforming them. The best way to get rid of a threat isn't to destroy it, but to make it your friend. And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. Maybe the real power isn't about choosing between your friends and your enemies, but having the skill to turn one into the other.